guys, it's me, your friend Felissa Rose, Angela from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to Kendall Hates Horror! Yeah.
Warning. Some viewers may find the following footage deeply disturbing. Welcome to my world, bitch. Kendall hates horror.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
I'm so fucking scared right now.
Valentine's Day is the dumbest thing
Mm-hmm.
ever. Like, it's just a bunch of dudes going up to the store to get flowers for their ladies just because they know that they have to.
Yeah. And what do guys get for Valentine's Day? Sometimes sex.
Maybe anal.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I didn't get into that
Casey?
shit.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're married.
We've been together since 2018.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, because you got together when we still worked together at Children's.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
And-
when we had our first date.
It was when you had your first date, because I asked you, I was like, hey, you showed me a picture. I was like, does she have a sister? Or like, does she know any other hot Latinas that I can?
I told Tanya about that.
From
and she
the
just
barrio.
Yeah.
she looked at me and she was like, what? And that was the end of that conversation.
Fucking no.
Yeah. Now, when you say it like that, it sounds gross.
It turns out she does not have a sister. She has two brothers. So, I mean,
Shit.
whatever way you want to swing it.
How'd you
mean-
even survive that?
Oh, it's easy, man. I'm just kind of get there. I don't understand what they're saying. They're just yelling at me. Just kidding. I love you, Tanya. Please don't take this the wrong way.
Does she listen?
No, but she said she was going to listen to this one because I was in it, and I was like, oh, god damn it.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's why I said we need to cut some of this.
That's,
Yeah,
that's why we have editing.
that's why some of this got to come out.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah, Tanya, welcome to the podcast. You should listen to the other ones because they're really funny too.
Yeah.
And Casey's going to join us for Sinister whenever we get around to doing it. So
excited.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, that makes there's 3 people that are going to be excited for that. One person that's
Not so much.
Yeah.
Kendall has built that up in his mind as like that's at the apocalypse of horror movies.
And
It's because I talked to him after I watched it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, that fucking movie screwed the shit out of me, dude.
dude, and that's why it's like one of my favorites because I sat down and it didn't gross me out. It just legitimately, I was watching that movie like
Yeah.
Dude, I
on
fucking
bated breath,
I
like that
paused,
whole time.
I literally paused it. I was like, yeah, I gotta go.
What part did you pause? I meant to ask you, what part did you pause it on?
The lawnmower. It scared the fucking shit out of me, dude.
I 100%. It didn't scare me. I didn't like jump scare or anything like that because that's really hard to jump scare me. But like when you're watching that as it's going and the lawnmower and all of a sudden a person's there, you're like, oh my god!
No, it's the scream that got me. It was like, "Roar," and then he did the hawk. I was like, oh my god!
Yeah.
He gets like super scared. I'm like, yeah, fuck this.
Yeah,
Pause.
pause. Let's go. Gotta take a walk.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta move around. Plus, I was. It was one of those nights where like it was back when we were living in the old place.
Yeah.
And nobody was home, and I was just sitting in the living room, and it was like midnight, and it just got me. I was like, "No, fuck this, dude."
Hard pass.
I need someone to talk to right now.
Yeah, because that scared the fuck out of me. But like, So the next day, I talked to Kendall, and I was like, "Yeah, that movie's fucking scary, dude."
He's like, I'm never watching that. And now look at him.
Yeah, the scene where he's walking down the hallway and the kids are like jumping
Bro.
out, that creeped me out because I'm already paranoid like that. Like I'm walking down and someone could be behind me.
Yeah.
It's like, and so just like every time I see that scene, I'm like, ugh.
Well, I'm like also kind of claustrophobic. So that scene at the beginning when the kid's like climbing in the box.
Oh yeah, no.
I was like, I like me thinking about myself climbing into a box. I'm like, nope. Because like, there's a movie called Dante's Peak.
So I already know exactly what he's talking about.
So, like, have you seen Dante's Peak?
Yes.
Okay, so the scene when Pierce Brosnan gets crushed in the car, I literally can't watch it.
It's rough.
It fucking makes my skin crawl.
Yeah,
dude.
it's rough.
I can't. There's like 2 scenes in movies where shit. Because like there's movies like Buried, where like Ryan Reynolds is in the coffin. That doesn't affect me.
No.
Because you feel the space. You know what I mean? But like the other movie is the Blair Witch remake.
Oh, when she's crawling through
when
the
she's
thing.
crawling through the little thing up into the house, and like that shit fucks me up.
The Descent.
Dude. The Descent didn't get me as much. Like
It's weird because that part of that movie is based, like the first part of the movie before you meet the crawlers. It's based on like
the only part that gets
uncomfortable
me is when they're going through that tunnel, the little small tunnel.
yeah, the birth canal.
Yeah, where they can't like you're like, dude, what if they get stuck? They can't get out.
Yeah, you're stuck.
You're fucked.
Yeah,
Like there was a thing that really happened in a cave where a dude got stuck upside down.
yeah.
Like that, and
It's
he
called the
did that.
Nutty Putty Cave incident.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. and he-
There's a movie about it. It's not very good. It was so the guy was incredibly Mormon. And like obviously he lived in Utah. I'm not saying everybody who lives in Utah is Mormon, but he happened to live in Utah and to be Mormon. Or he was visiting Utah because
yeah. Jody Arias's guy was Mormon, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was super
yeah.
Mormon.
Yeah, he had the choose the right ring.
Yes,
Because
that's
it's
right.
the choose the right one. And he would take it off every time he was dicking down Jody Arias because that way God didn't see him or whatever.
Well, they did a lot of anal, and that doesn't count.
Well, apparently, apparently the poopo loophole is not is technically it is still sinful in the Mormon. They go with something called the provo push, which is basically just taking your hip and just grinding it into each other's.
Yeah.
That's the provo push.
Isn't that BYU? Isn't that the Mormons?
Yeah, it's Brigham Young.
That's Brigham Young. Yeah, he's like
That's where they shake the bed for you. So it's not.
That's called soaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
soaking
That's
is
Soaking is a real
weird,
thing.
yeah.
That's where you insert and don't move.
Yep.
But it's not against God if other people move the bed for you,
Yeah.
which is super fucking weird because I'm sorry, I'm not having sex with somebody watching
Yeah,
me.
just sitting there shaking
Just
the bed.
shaking
like,
the bed and like, shake it faster,
Yeah.
Dave.
That's weird.
Like,
That's weird, man.
Yeah, because Joseph Smith and Brigham Young are the 2 most important figures in Mormonism. I would say the 2 most important.
Well, David Miscavige, is he Mormon or is
No,
he
he's Scientology. Yeah,
Okay.
he took over after LRH
Yeah.
died. Yeah, he's a little fucking gremlin.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Where's your wife, David? Where's your wife?
Nobody knows.
Yeah. Welcome to this week's episode of Kendall Hates Horror.
What an intro.
I'm your host, Grant. I'm not going to have a clever nickname for Evan today because
He's our
he's
survivalist.
He's our soul survivor. The horror aficionado and soul survivor, Evan.
Hello.
And we're joined by our very special guest. Man, we've been having a lot of special guests lately.
Yeah, it has been a special guest month.
Yeah,
lately,
it has.
for sure.
Casey, he's joining us for this episode.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
Yeah. You hate the sound of your voice yet?
I definitely do.
Because everybody that's come on except for Shane has been like, "Oh God, I hate the sound
I
of my
definitely
voice."
do.
Yeah,
It's not pleasant.
yeah. No, it's fine.
I don't.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like, I don't. It doesn't bother me. Very much.
Tanner said he hated his voice, but man, he had
He had a very smooth,
didn't he?
like radio voice.
I haven't since I've been on vacation. I really listen to podcasts. I haven't got to listen to that episode yet.
The Body's Body.
Yeah,
Body
I need to
podcast,
listen to it.
Yeah, it turned out really good. The sound was really good on
it
it.
was.
We were having a great time during that whole recording.
The funny story is so that episode is super fucking unhinged because Tanner is unhinged, right?
Obviously.
Okay. We recorded, and this is going to come out after the Night of the Living Dead episode. Somehow, with Kendall's brother Kenton, his twin brother Kenton, it was more unhinged than Tanner. And I'm just like, Jesus, I'm like,
How?
sensory overload. Like, I got lost. I'm like, where the fuck am I?
Well, I was like, I wasn't like, like sort of like, because we kind of flip roles. Like when we come back, it's like Grant is like hosting like before that, and then I kind of take over and I start going through the movie and stuff like that. And with Night of the Living Dead, that role reversed. So I was just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start
What do I do
making.
with my hands?
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna start making funnies, I guess.
And yeah, he did. He just fucking he started, saying like doing 90s music lyrics, specifically Matchbox 20, and
I'm all about it.
like we got off on a tangent about how cool Rob Thomas is because, and then we got off on a tangent about iZombie, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Why are we here right now, guys?
Why are we here today? Well, today we decided to do a very special episode of Deep Cuts where we're going to talk about the history of zombies and zombie movies. We're going to talk about the history of zombies and zombie movies. This is my jam. This is the thing that these are my favorite. My favorite of the horror genre movies is the zombie movies. I was a huge Walking Dead fan up until like the last few seasons.
Yeah.
Hey man, you shut up because you love The Last of Us, the video games and the series. So
Yeah, because they're actually good character stories.
and Walking Dead was great
For
characters.
like 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's closer to 5. 5 or 6.
I'll hard disagree.
Yeah,
but like,
5 or 6.
But The Last of Us is the reason. I'm not a big huge zombie fan, but I love The Last of Us. But it's not because of the zombies; it's about the character. The characters. The reason
Right.
I love that. I love that series.
And a lot of people fell in love with the characters in The Walking Dead too. Yeah, so and you're more of a video game zombie fanatic than
Yeah, I mean,
Oh no, I will say I agree with you on that effect. Those are some of my favorite games. And I'm not a big zombie fan, but I love zombie video games.
I remember when I was a little kid, we had a PlayStation, and it was the first game console we ever got. And Resident Evil 2 was one of the games my dad had.
Yep.
And it was that and Final Fantasy 7.
Yep.
And so that was what I learned to play video games on. So that was like my first experience with zombies. And I was like, this is terrifying.
It wasn't the first experience I had with zombies, but I had a PlayStation 1 also. My first experience was the very first Resident Evil. I'm that fucking old.
That's the first game I ever bought on PlayStation was the original Resident Evil. Because there for a while I could never get past the opening scene.
Oh my god!
Because you go through the house and then you're like kind of fucking around and then all of a sudden there's a zombie that sees you around the corner. And
where the mirror,
for the longest time I was like, fuck, I was like, this is so fucking hard, dude. But I was a kid. I hadn't really gotten into like, this is gotten into video game mode and stuff like that.
It's not zombie related, but there are 2 games on the PlayStation that creeped me the fuck out when I was younger. It was that one. It was Resident Evil 1, and it was Silent Hill.
Silent Hill is terrifying. That is a terrifying series.
Once the sirens hit, I was like, fuck.
That was a game where I had to pause it, turn the lights on in the house because I was like, shit.
That game is fucking scary, dude.
Even the first movie did that, where it was like it captured that whole universe.
I will say that movie isn't the greatest thing in the world, right?
No.
But like
it has the feel.
It captured everything about that game.
Yep,
I would say that was probably one of the best video game based movies.
I will agree.
I think that's it's up there.
It's up there
because like with Resident Evil movies, like Resident Evil 1, I don't like. I think it's pretty, I think it's pretty trash.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2, I really like.
It felt like the game.
Well, it's because they started adding characters from the game.
Yeah.
What a fucking concept.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
they added Jill Valentine, which is probably for me personally is my favorite character. In
that's the person I always
Resident Evil
played.
franchise. Yeah. And then like 3 is pretty trash. Extinction. And then
3 is straight garbage.
4, in my opinion, is the best Resident Evil movie they ever made. Mm-hmm. That was Afterlife. Afterlife was awesome because they had Chris Redfield, they had Claire Redfield,
and then they got us at the very end because they added Wesker.
Yep,
they added Wesker, but also Jill Valentine comes back at the end of Afterlife. That movie fucking rules.
Yep.
It's so awesome, but I think that's what Silent Hill has. Silent Hill because it brings the iconic characters from that game, like Pyramid Head and the nurses, and
the creepy little baby things.
That fucking
those ones will always get me. Nope.
But it's a neat movie because they kind of combine a lot of the games,
a lot of the lore
to get together, like Sean Bean looking for his family. That's more like the 4th game, like The Room, and I like that movie. The second one is hot.
The second one is hot.
I've never seen the second one. I've never watched it.
You're not missing a damn thing.
I remember I tried
Kid
to watch
Harington's
it.
in that movie, isn't
Kid Harington's in that movie. It was right after like I think the 2nd or 3rd season of the Game of Thrones.
Trash.
So he was
What was it called, like Revelations or something?
Silent Hill Revelations. Yeah. I watched it recently because I was like, I haven't seen this in a while. Maybe I've let it marinate enough. I can watch it and appreciate it. And I got done. I was like, nope, I still don't appreciate it. It still sucks ass.
That movie's garbage.
Yeah, so.
I'm glad I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
That is one I'm glad I haven't. But
all right, so our sources today are it is a Zombie Movies: The Ultimate Guide, written by or compiled by Glenn Kay. It's a great book. It's a little bit outdated because it was published in 2012 or 2011, so it doesn't really have anything since then. But it's really good resource for anybody who's wanting to do like a checklist, especially of like the old movies that may be hard to find. Like we're talking about the 30s, 40s, and 50s kind of thing. My other 2 sources are Exhumed: A History of Zombies. It was a fantastic documentary if you like zombies and zombie movies. It was hosted by Dr. Emily Zarka. She's a folklore. She's a professor of folklore at a university, and I can't remember which one it is. And she specializes in monsters and zombies.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then a History Channel documentary back when they used to do when they actually used to do documentaries on the History Channel, is Zombies: A Living History. And I use those as kind of like a little bit of backstory about zombie history. That's where I'm pulling all of this stuff from. So talking about the history of zombies and the fascination with zombies as the world or civilization has progressed, like the zombie history goes back to probably one of the earliest forms of written word. There was something in a passage in the Epic of Gilgamesh that said, and the dead will rise and they will eat the living and the dead will outnumber the living. Kind of sounds like a zombie apocalypse, right?
100%.
Yeah, so then if we look at like China in the 2nd century BC, the Jingqi was a hungry ghost that would rise from the grave and consume the flesh of the family members as punishment for improper burial. That sounds like a zombie also, right?
Yep, definitely does.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
The 6th century in what is now the Middle East, they used to have this is where the term ghoul comes from. The first usage of the term ghoul. A ghoul was usually a punishment for a creature who lived an impure life, usually a prostitute or a thief or something like that. They would sing out in the desert and try to lure people, kind of like a siren.
That's creepy.
Norse mythology. I mean, everybody knows the Draugr, especially if you've played any kind of video game. Because isn't that like one of the creatures from Skyrim?
Yeah, anytime you do any kind of dungeon, underground thing, they're very much the common enemy.
Yeah,
as far as that goes.
I've played some Skyrim, haven't played a whole lot. The scary thing about the Draugrs in mythology is that they retained their intelligence. Like they weren't dumb like your typical zombie is now. And you could only stop it by luring it back into the earth. So you had to figure out a way to get it into the grave and start burying it again. 12th century England, a cleric by the name of William of Newburgh documented what he called the Revenant. He recorded a passage, one could not easily believe that corpses come out of the grave unless there were many cases supported by ample testimony.
That's a very valid way of looking at science.
Yeah, so I think the idea of the Walking Dead has been terrifying, the human race for thousands of years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go back to voodoo culture. It was very common. Yeah, I don't know if you've covered that, but I'm sure it's definitely on there, I'm sure.
Well, this is what's so bullshit about voodoo is, so this is voodoo. The voodoo scare is what's directly influences like zombies in America, because voodoo was an ancient West African religion, spans back centuries from I think it's Gabe speaking people. It means spirit worship. It doesn't necessarily mean rising from the dead. And in fact, most of the practice was used to speak to the ancestors and not necessarily raise them from the dead. It followed the Atlantic slave trade from Africa into French-controlled Haiti. Checks out. And other Caribbean nations. Slaves continued to practice it, but traditions changed slightly, which gave birth to Vodou, not Vodun, Vodou. As a religion spread, colonists forbade it, making it a practice more underground. It soon moved to the mainland United States, where it gave birth to its now commonly known form, our typical voodoo, or Louisiana voodoo, as it's separated. There's as much difference between there's as much difference between voodoo, and Vodun as there is between Catholic, Protestant, and Lutheran faiths.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I just tried to say it once and I fumbled over it and I had to do it again. There are only a very small portion of Haitian Vodou religion that has any reference to any controlling of bodies or raising the dead. There's actually more references to the dead rising in the Bible than there is in the practice of Vodou.
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up was if anybody's ever read the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks. It mentions that in there that they had figured out a concoction that would kill parts of your brain and it would give the appearance of what we would now consider a zombie. They could follow basic commands. They kind of couldn't talk, Yeah. And that was kind of how that started as far as what a modern zombie is viewed.
The zombies didn't really hit America until the 20th century. In 1835, Haitian lawmakers actually passed an article. In 1835, Haitian lawmakers passed an article called Article 246 in the Haitian Legal Code, which explicitly condemns zombification, specifically the use of, quote, substances whereby a person is not killed but reduced to a state of lethargy, more or less prolonged. If, following the state of lethargy, the person is buried, then the attempt will be termed murder.
That pretty much sounds like what I just said.
It was so crazy that they put a law on the books that says, don't make zombies.
You cannot do this.
What you're doing is a zombie, so you can't do that.
Wild.
Yeah, in 1915 is really when it came to America, because in 1915, for reasons, the United States decided to occupy Haiti. And then while he was over there, a U.S. service member named William Seabrook gathered some stories, brought it back to America, and published a novel called The Magic Island in 1929. He was mostly just kind of like taking some of the voodoo rituals and stuff like that, but he really amped up the fear involved in it because he knew it was going to sell.
Right.
Because humans are panicky and stupid. He specifically had a passage in the book that he described as, a quote, a soulless human corpse, still dead, but taken from the grave and endowed by sorcery with a mechanical semblance of life. It is a dead body which is made to walk and act and move as if it were alive. Could be fear-mongering by the white man because it was black people doing black people stuff, or if it was actual voodoo or voodoo.
It could definitely be something of its time, I guess would be the right way to say that.
In zombie lore and zombie movies, there's going to be like a lot of it's like horror movies. The horror movies will typically follow the common fear of the time. Mm-hmm. And as we go through like some of the decades, you'll see that the fear that is behind the zombie trope in this particular movie or film follows what people were afraid of at the time.
I've never thought about that, but I guess looking back, you can look when it gets to the 2010s, the 2020s, you start getting more like internet involved, and you go backwards, you get the mask thing with all of your 80s and 90s killers, and so I never thought about that.
Yeah. So the 1930s and 40s introduced us to the white savior and the demonization of voodoo. It started in 1932 with Victor Halpern's White Zombie. This is the first official zombie movie that ever made it to the United States. It stars Bela Lugosi as, and I can't stress this enough, this is actually what they called it in the movie, Murder Legendaire.
That movie is trash.
It's okay. So
1932.
It's trash.
It is a product of its time. Bela Lugosi, as we all know, is a fucking diva.
I don't care. Dracula's a better movie than that.
No, it is. It 100% is. It 100% is. He stars as a plantation owner in Haiti. This is continue. Who steals the souls of his workers to work on his plantation? A callback to slavery in the United States. Like this is what, not even 70 years since the end of slavery and the end of Civil War, right?
You still haven't had laws passed to make people considered to be equal,
right? Yeah, people are still they're heavily oppressed. This is the beginning of Jim Crow. Like, I know people talk about Jim Crow being like in the 50s and 60s, but the groundwork was being laid in the 20s and 30s.
A lot of black people that grew up I'm not speaking for them, but like a lot of them that grew up in that time period, they'll talk about like the 50s being really bad. Mm-hmm. But like those were mainly like people that lived in the South a lot.
Yeah.
In the Depression era, it was everywhere. Everywhere. There's a bunch of movies. There's one movie in particular, I think it's called like Rosewood, I believe, and it tells like the story of like these oppressed blacks during the Depression era, but like in the northern side. Yeah, it wasn't just in the South, but like the Depression era, it was bad.
Well, and that's something that when the human race is suffering the most, that's when you're going to see the worst of the human race.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The first zombie that ever graced, even though that he's in Haiti and he's stealing the souls, the first zombie that ever actually graced the screen was not black; he was white. But it still used this movie to kind of demonize voodoo,
Right.
Even though, as we stated, voodoo has a very small practice when it comes to actually like raising the dead or communicating with it. It's mostly a peaceful religion. That there's voodoo dolls are not really a thing. Like,
they're probably like the most like current film that really delved into something like that would be like The Serpent and the Rainbow to an extent.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that one too.
Which I really like that movie. It's really
we're going to talk about that one too. Yeah. Not 4 years later, Victor Halperin released his second movie. It was called Revolt of the Zombies. It was a follow up, but this time it was set in Cambodia. Has nothing to do with with like voodoo zombie, but somehow still has voodoo. It portrays voodoo as evil and practitioners as vile. The villain is Cambodian, reflecting America's fear of immigration. Yeah.
I mean,
well, at this time in America, where the Republicans like to say now, like open borders, we get to secure our borders. This is when we had open borders. This is when we had people, and we were demonizing them as they were coming in. Like the Irish got demonized when they were immigrating over, from as early as like 1850.
Oh yeah, like especially to like New York and stuff, they were treated like absolute dog shit.
That's why a lot of them moved to Boston.
Well, and a lot of them unfairly they got drafted into the Civil War.
Yeah, because they didn't know what they were signing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever seen?
They were just like, hey, put your X here, put your X here, put your X.
You're gonna get 3 meals a day.
Yeah, they were literally loading them off of boats to load them onto another boat.
and they just went.
It's pretty crazy.
Speaking, I didn't even put two and two together. I forgot to mention that Casey is a proud member of our armed forces. So,
no, I'm not.
No, we're not shitting on
like the military. I'm just saying that those were the practices that they used.
Yeah. No one's gonna take it that way. I promise. Like, we have not been the most squeaky clean.
Yeah.
1941, horror movies kind of tapered off at this point, and especially zombie movies, because of the Great Depression. But King of the Zombies came out, directed by Gene Yarbrough.
This was like rise of like Universal Monsters too.
This was also kind of in the middle of Rise of Universal Monsters. But because the horror movies kind of tapered off, you saw the rise of smaller production companies like Republic, Monogram, and PRC, which in Hollywood was commonly referred to as Poverty Row. They ended up being the savior of the zombie movie. Like without smaller independent movie production companies coming in, we wouldn't have zombies now. 1941 saw them release King of the Zombies. It's continued the trend of the white savior trope. It also introduces the idea of a white woman being victimized by a black villain, which is an allegory for women being falsely accusing black men of crimes they were innocent of.
We've got a lot of those, so we can go back on.
Emmett Till, anyone? Yeah. 1943 saw Revenge of the Zombies, which is another Monogram quickie. That's what they referred to it as. One of the first zombie movies to specifically utilize the fear of the Third Reich as their main villain.
Oh, like Dead Snow.
Kind of like Dead Snow, yeah.
Which is one that I actually kind of enjoy.
I can't find the first one to watch.
The original.
The original. Yeah. I can only see Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead.
Yeah, no.
That's the only one I've ever seen.
Oh, you've never seen the original?
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that wasn't the original.
Yeah, that's the sequel. There is a first one.
It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good. I just can't find it. It's never on any streaming service. Yeah, so
I saw it when it first came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of neat." It's like doing Nazi zombies.
Yeah,
like that's neat.
And then the last stop in the 40s was Voodoo Man. It was Bela Lugosi's return to the zombie genre. Once again, it's not what people consider a modern-day zombie, but the voodoo zombie is missing its soul. So it's still like the Haitian zombies that everyone kind of got used to. The 50s and 60s saw, this is what we were talking about, the Runaway Science and the Godfather of the Dead. Because that's... Do you know who the Godfather of the Dead is?
I do not.
You're about to find out.
Yeah, that was Bela Lugosi. That was the end of the 40s?
It was 44.
Yeah, he was only about 12 years away from when he died. Because Plan 9 was like one of the last movies he did. Yeah.
Yeah, because speaking of, with the victory over the Axis and the early Cold War beginning to ramp up following the development of nuclear testing, the mainstream fears shifted away from immigration and now into like runaway science and the invasion of communism and stuff. So the first movie that I really wanted to focus on was The Creature with the Atom Brain. The real movie really reflects the fear of like nuclear weapons and nuclear war.
And this is not a movie I've ever seen.
I've literally never even heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've seen it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's like I'm going to tell you right now, about 90% of the movies that I'm about to talk about in this aren't good movies, but they are significant in in this particular genre.
Yeah, they laid the brickwork for.
Yep, they laid the foundation.
Some of the better ones that we'll talk about.
Speaking of another not great movie, Plan 9 from Outer Space.
I've seen Plan 9 from Outer Space because it's like you have to see Plan 9.
You have to see Plan 9 from Outer Space
because it's one of the worst movies ever made.
In my notes, possibly the worst movie ever made.
I don't know. The Room still exists and stuff like that. But
yeah, but The Room is bad, ironically.
No, but Plan 9 is like
bad, almost on purpose.
It's one of the funniest movies I've ever fucking seen.
It's almost bad. It's almost bad on purpose. Plan 9 from Outer Space also starred Vampirella.
Yep.
Just they pretended like it was a serious role.
Yeah, Plan 9 rules.
Plan 9 is awesome. It is awesomely terrible, but it is awesome.
They sometimes they will show it as like a midnight screening at theaters, and I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, if you can see it in the original black and white,
yes,
you should see it in the original black. There's a colorized version of it. It's on Tubi, I think. It's fine, but it's not super good. Like I would definitely watch the black and white version. Yeah. And then 1964, we get probably one of the, until Serpent in the Rainbow, we get probably one of the last references to like a voodoo zombie. They do the Horror of Party Beach. I put in my notes, if you haven't heard of this movie, don't be alarmed because it's not very good.
It sounds like a really cheesy B movie that you would see at like 2 a.m. on Sci-Fi.
Maybe a C movie at best.
Even worse.
Even worse. Yeah. I mean, think Annette Funicello and the rest of the beach party kids meets voodoo zombies. Yeah, it's bad. It's not good. Terrible. It's not a good movie. And then we finally get to The Godfather of the Dead. George A. Romero.
Oh, well, I know who George A. Romero is. That was his name.
1968, he reinvents the zombie movie. He reinvents what zombies are. Night of the Living Dead comes out.
One of the greatest movies of all time. It's one of my favorite movies.
I agree.
I remember the first time I watched this, I was a very small child, and I watched it with my mom because she was like, scared. "Oh, come watch this movie. Yeah. It's super cool." And shout out to you, Mom. Thank you for making me watch horror movies. That's the best decision ever. But I remember watching that and being just like so enthralled with that movie. I loved it.
It's good.
Yeah. But it's culturally significant.
It's very, very, very important. It's not one of my super favorites. I love the way that movie's shot.
Yep.
It looks like a fucking French New Wave film. It's
a little
crazy.
Bit. Yeah.
But there are parts of that movie that I'm just like, dude.
There are characters in that movie that I'm kind of like, fuck off.
Let's fucking move this along.
That's why I like the remake better, because it does move it along. Like,
well, yeah, because I know why Romero made it that long, because it had to be feature length.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I get it. But there are parts.
There's a lot of dead space.
There's the parts, like the middle bit of that movie is fucking like, dude, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's move this
100%.
But it's shot beautifully.
100%. That's one of the first horror movies I can really remember watching.
Yeah.
So George A. Romero made this movie, and it changed what people thought about zombies. Gone were the idea that they were regular humans that have had their souls stolen. They became the walking corpses.
They barely explain anything about why they've shown up.
They
try to, but it's not really.
They put a couple of theories into the movie, but you're left to your imaginations to figure out what it is that's causing the problem. What's causing the problem?
I don't love those scenes. I think they're kind of like whatever.
Fine. They're literally throwaway scenes.
Yeah,
but they're now viewed as walking corpses, animated by forces beyond man's comprehension. We talked about this in last week's episode of Night of the Living Dead. Romero says that he didn't cast Dwayne Jones because he was black. He said he cast him because he was the best guy who gave the best audition. We all think that's it may be true, but it also became the other thing because after the movie was finished filming, and he has all the canisters in the trunk of his car, and he's driving from Pittsburgh back to New York so that he can start editing the movie so he can get it out. As he's driving from Pittsburgh to New York, over the radio, the news is announcing that Martin Luther King Jr. has been assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. And George A. Romero had to have gone, shit.
Yeah, 100%.
What I have in here is fucking gold. So,
I don't know if it really even crossed his mind though, because he's just like that. He's just, he's just always been like that. I
don't think he was looking at it from the money perspective, but I think he was looking at it as like, oh shit, this is gonna be controversial.
Yes, controversial.
And as we know from Eric Bischoff, controversy creates.
I don't know if he thought that. The thing about Romero is Romero kind of lives in this East Coast bubble.
He does.
You know what I mean? So like he may not even think like that, whereas Savini's like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Like he knows.
You know what you got.
But like Romero, he's lived on the East Coast his entire life. He's lived in either New York or Pennsylvania. That's where he lives. You know what I mean? So he might have just lived in this bubble where he's just like, oh, I just made a movie. This isn't whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think this is gonna affect that.
Yeah. All right. So then we move into the 70s, and this is probably one of the weirdest times for zombie movies because we move into the rise of the Italian and Spanish zombie movies and another reinvention, right? Italian filmmakers realize the zombie craze isn't dying. In fact, it's growing. Romero saved this genre, and in just a decade, 42 zombie movies were released. And
that's insane.
Yeah. So it starts off with, I didn't start in the early 70s. I started in the later 70s because I want to hit like the culturally significant ones. Dawn of the Dead. Romero followed up to the Night of the Living Dead, decided to make a specific statement in Dawn because he wanted to, he said he wanted to do a specific statement in Dawn, which he claimed he didn't do in Night of the Living Dead. We see 4 survivors take refuge in a mall during a global outbreak. First time we see zombies in a horde, like huge horde of zombies. This is Savini's first zombie film to work on. He's not only in the movie because he plays one of the bikers that breaks into the mall, but he's also the guy who does all of the makeup effects for it. Romero really wanted to get him in on this because he wanted him to work on Dawn, but Savini had enlisted to go fight in Vietnam. It's another thing that makes Savini so good is because when he's making zombies and making dead bodies, he's like, I don't need anybody to tell me.
Been there, seen that.
Seen it.
We're good.
I've seen somebody get their head shot off. I'm good. I know this.
I know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Guys. I got it.
79 saw Italy release their knockoff of Dawn of the Dead called Zombie. It's sometimes technically just with a Z-O-M-B-I or Z-O-M-B-I-E here in the States.
It's one of my favorite. Like, I don't love zombie movies, but fuck, that movie rules so hard.
It is. It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie.
Fulci, man.
The funny story about this movie is it's an Italian movie, right? And it's a large portion of it is filmed in Italy, but they're all American actors speaking Italian. So it's like really weird.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The first 20 minutes of the movie is taking place in like the harbor in New York.
Well, they're paying homage to Nosferatu.
Correct. Italian horror is so fucking weird. I can't wait till we get the chance to show Kendall some of this because he's going to be like, "What the fuck?"
Oh no, there's some
gonna
great.
Love it or hate it.
He's going to love it or hate it.
There are some great like zombie films. Like Demon isn't really a zombie film, but God, that movie fucking rules so hard. But like City of the Walking Dead is another good one.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Mario Bava stuff's really good. Fulci, even though he was a complete fucking asshole and everybody hated him.
Yeah.
He made some fucking fire movies, and that zombie movie has like one of the fucking like the coolest like kills I've ever fucking
Which
seen.
one?
The Eye.
I put this one in my notes because I thought you would get it. You might both get a kick out of this. Okay, so 1980, we saw Cannibal Apocalypse come out. It's another Italian zombie splatterfest, and this is why I thought you guys would get a kick out of it. Directed by Antonio Margheriti.
Yeah.
Where's that name from?
I don't know.
Inglourious Bastards. That's the name that Eli Roth gives when they're pretending to be
right,
Italian. Because he's like, Margheriti.
the film the theater.
That checks out because like
that was a real director that he was referencing.
Right, that checks out with fucking Tarantino. Tarantino's a fucking slut for shit like that.
Dominic DeCoco.
Yeah.
Bravo.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I love Inglourious
that movie.
Basterds so much. This is one that's not really considered a traditional zombie film, but it's worth mentioning due to the similarities between The Walking Dead. The Fog, 1980, John Carpenter.
Love that movie.
It's not technically a zombie movie, but they are portrayed as shambling, mindless zombies. He used that as his follow up to his horror classic Halloween.
They'd have been fine if they just gave the pirate his gold back.
That's fair.
That whole movie, they could have just given the gold back and been
Never
fine.
keep a pirate from his gold.
Yeah.
Just saying. Shout out to you, Mom. Another movie you made me watch.
Yeah, Leprechaun. That's his whole thing. Don't take his give him his gold.
Check this out. Don't steal.
Yeah, doesn't steal his gold.
It's weird. Life's a lot easier when we don't do that.
Here's another one that if you haven't heard of it, you're fine. I'm not holding it against anybody for not hearing about this movie, but Evan knows about it because I actually own this movie and I made everybody watch it. It's called Burial Ground.
Never even heard of that.
It's an Italian zombie movie. It's low budget. Lingers on bad effects just a little too long, just to make sure that you know it's low budget. It's probably one of the most disturbing the Italian zombie movies because the subplot has a creepy pseudo-sexual relationship between a mother and her son
Nope,
who gets turned into a zombie and then bites her nipple off because he's breastfeeding. And he's like 17 years old.
That's really weird.
It's a really weird. Andrea Bianchi directed that. That was the only one she directed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That checks out.
And then this one, I put it on the list because it's fucking culturally significant and it's fucking awesome. In 1983, John Landis directs the Thriller music video of Michael Jackson.
One of the greatest, if not the greatest,
It's the greatest cinematic music video of all time. It is so fucking good. Groundbreaking.
I will say, fuck John Landis, just for
What's going to happen later on?
Yeah. Actually, no, it happened before that.
What happened before that?
80s.
But the music video was still so good. The effects, the effects were great. The cinematography was great. The dancing, it was just super impressive. I couldn't not put it on the list. Mm-hmm. This one's kind of a weird one. Well, it's not really weird. I expect a lot of people have probably watched this movie, but Night of the Comet.
I like Night of the Comet.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. No.
Okay, Night of the Comet. It's going to be on. It's going to be on the podcast at some point. It's too good of a movie. The plot is basically like there's a comet that's passing through Earth's atmosphere, and everyone is like trying to watch it, but in the process, most of the population of Earth is turned to dust during that, except for a few people who had some sort of protection, and their brain kind of like they devolve into zombies. And other people who were sleeping in a place that was surrounded by steel, like a shed, or like one of the characters survives because she was sleeping in a projection studio, or not a projection studio, projection loft at a movie theater. Mm-hmm. That protected them. But so they come out of wherever they were sleeping or hiding and find that most people have been turned into dust, and then some people have been turned into like crazy zombies.
Yeah.
Added to the list because it's a great movie.
Yeah, starring Kelly Maroney, who was a sort of a scream queen. She had done Chopping Mall right after Night of the Comet.
Yeah. And also for any of the Star Trek Voyager fans, it also stars Robert Beltran, who played Commander Chakotay. Shut your whore mouth.
All one of you.
Thank you.
Watched Star Trek Voyager.
Motherfucker, I know there are people that listen to this that watch Star Trek and they get it.
Cool.
I know it.
Is
all three of you. I'll give you credit. All three of you.
Literally every time he does, I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah. Caleb, Sean, Randy, I appreciate you.
Cool.
There was all three of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was bringing up things that maybe other people had actually seen.
Shut up. 85. Okay, this is a big.
I already know what this is.
Yeah, 85. This is a big year for zombie movies. 3 really great ones come out.
There's 2 that I know for sure. One of them is one of my absolute favorites.
You know all 3 of them.
Okay.
Day of the Dead.
Yeah, I love Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead comes out in 85. Directed also by George Romero. He won't direct another of the Dead movie again until Land of the Dead, which I think is like 2005. Day of the Dead comes out in 85.
God, that movie rolls so hard.
The next one, and this is also on Evan's favorite movie list, Reanimator.
Yes, sir.
Fucking
I was saying, it's right up
there. Yeah,
Cat dead. Details later.
Yeah, Cat Dead, details later. Dr. Herbert West. This is really like this is so Jeffrey Combs is like a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan. So anytime there's a Lovecraftian type of movie that's coming out, he wants to be in on it.
That checks out.
This is loosely based off of an H.P. Lovecraft story. So he fucking loves that shit. And then the other one, culturally significant, Return of the Living Dead. Comes out in 85. It's campy, but it's a lot of fun. Have you seen it?
I believe so. I'd have to like see the.
It's very referential to Night of the Living Dead as a like Night of the Living Dead is a movie that exists in their universe.
Gotcha. If I
So
saw
it's very meta.
So what happened
picture
was
of it, I'd know.
yeah. So what happened was
That movie, I just watched that recently. Yeah, that one was a
yeah.
You know, when
probably
I-
the greatest set of cinematic tits in the history of cinema because
You know, when I was a kid,
God bless Linnea Quigley.
I liked all the punks. Like a lot, but then now that I'm older and I watch,
I like all the regular guys.
The old men in that movie are fucking hilarious.
Are me, yeah. They're me.
Like Clu Gulager is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name that plays the Nazi? The Nazi.
Yeah. Ernie, you're talking about Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie. I can't remember the actor's name, but Clu Gulager because he plays
Bert.
He plays Bert. He's
Yeah.
fucking
By the way,
hilarious.
it's the two friends are Bert and Ernie.
Yes,
It's hilarious.
but I want a Bert and God, his name is in Demon, but it's what's fucking Miguel Nunez's name? Spider. I always want to call him Demon because that's his name in Friday the 13th
Yeah.
Part 5. These damn enchiladas.
Yeah. So the reason why this is culturally significant is because after Night of the Living Dead came out, he and one of his other writers, I believe it was Johnny Russo, and him kind of had a little bit of a falling out.
Because Russo heads Return of the Living Dead. That's like
He
his
heads
thing.
Return of the Living Dead. They had kind of a falling out, and because he wanted to make more movies, and at that point, Romero didn't really want to make movies. He just wanted to make Night of the Living Dead as like his own standalone movie.
right.
So he decides he wants to make more, so he decides to start making more. So they kind of split the rights to it. So Romero retains movies that will have the title of the dead at the end, and then he gets the Living Dead at the end. So that's why we have Return of the Living Dead
I
1, 2,
never
and
knew
3.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered why they had the two separate titles, or if it was just like one was trying to knock off the other one.
Yeah.
But now that makes a lot more sense knowing that.
They later reconciled and kind of worked a little bit together on other projects because I'm pretty sure Johnny Russo came back and helped him write Land of the Dead. Because
they did come back together like, for that movie.
1986. Not as big for zombie movies, but we did get Night of the Creeps, directed by Fred Decker. We get our favorite drunk uncle.
Throw me.
Yeah, Tom Atkins. Throw me.
He has an action figure of his character. Was it Doctor? What's his fucking name?
Detective.
I always want to call him Doctor Dan because that's his name in Halloween 3.
Yeah.
But his action figure literally has a beer can and a pistol.
Yeah.
I know who that is based on you saying Halloween 3. I now know who that man is.
Yeah, Tom Atkins is a big you're a horror fan, especially if you watch movies in the 80s. He's
all of them.
He's a
Yeah.
John Carpenter guy. He was in the Fog because he's the main guy in the Fog.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that picks up
yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis and the one that's with Adrian. That's Tom Atkins.
Okay.
Yeah. Night of the Creeps returns to kind of like the classic alien influence type of thing. Like, because the idea behind Night of the Creeps is it's a crashed UFO or something like that, and these
little slugs like
crawl into people's heads and turn them into zombies until the head finally explodes. It's a great movie. It's a great body horror type movie because it's got a lot of exploding heads and it's got a lot of great character work and everything. It's just a good movie.
Hey, ladies. Got good news and bad news. Your dates are here. Bad news is they're dead.
They're dead. That fucking dog. MVP of that movie, I'm going to tell you. And then we get a return to the voodoo zombies because we get Serpent of the Rainbow. This one is another one about like the white savior versus the evil black religion.
Wes Craven film.
It's Wes Craven film. It's loosely based off of Wade Davis's nonfiction book about his experiences in Haiti.
That movie's fucking wild.
It's a good movie, but it's polarizing because again, it's just demonize. It seems like it's demonizing.
Would that have been one of Wes Craven's earlier movies? Because
No. He did because Wes Craven started in the 70s because he did like Last House on the Left, Hills Have Eyes,
and then in the early 80s he started Nightmare.
Yeah, then he did Nightmare, and then he does like fucking Deadly Friend after that.
Yeah,
and then he does Serpent on the Rainbow, and then like
I think actually didn't Nightmare 2 come out in 86?
Yeah, that came out. It might have been 85.
Was it 85?
Yeah,
yeah.
So he had already done those, and then People Under the Stairs was like was that in the 80s or was that early 90s?
Which one?
People Under the Stairs.
Oh, no. People in the Stairs was late 80s. I think it was like 89.
Okay, yeah.
It might have been 90. It might have
No,
been.
he had done a bunch of stuff before he did Serpent Rainbow.
Cut that out. Me sound like an idiot.
No. It's a perfectly fair.
We
question.
want this riff.
When I think of Wes Craven, I think of like, but I mean, I was born in 91, so I think of
Baby.
you know, the 90s movies that he did, where he did like Wishmaster, and he did some of
Yeah.
those other ones all in like,
Yeah.
that was when he was like super hot. He did Scream.
Yeah.
Like all those. So he was like super
Yeah,
hot
no,
for that
he
time
was
period.
big in
He
this.
got hot and stayed hot for a long
Like
time.
his stuff in the 70s is very independent. It's very like it's very gritty and grimy. Like Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left.
Both those movies have been remade. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
obviously there's something there.
They're
that he did really
definitely
well.
very culturally significant.
Yeah, but then Nightmare happens and his entire life changes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So now we get into the 90s and 2000s, and I want to hit you with this little bit of trivia. Okay. So horror movies kind of reigned supreme in the 70s and 80s, began to die down in the early 90s. Horror, especially zombie movies, needed a reinvention. We talked about this, like modern day horror got reinvented by Scream. Zombie movies got reinvented by the video game and direct-to-DVD sales. This is when we were just talking about it. This is when Resident Evil comes out. But this is a crazy statistic. Half. Okay, so I just listed off this entire list of movies that span all the way back from the 30s all the way to the 2000s. Half of all up until 2011, half of all zombie movies that were made between September 11, 2001 and 2011.
That's insane. That is
50% of all zombie movies were made in that 10-year span. Fuck the other 70 years.
10 years.
10 years. Yeah. So
One movie we didn't talk about from the 80s, which I'm actually kind of upset we didn't, was fucking Dead Alive. Brain Dead. That is one of my favorite fucking, like, if I'm going to talk about a zombie movie, that's one of my favorites.
You are correct. Let's backtrack just a little bit.
We can let's talk about the beginnings of Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Peter Jackson, he has like two other movies before he does before he does Dead Alive / brain damage.
Just call it Dead Alive. Because that's what it's called here.
Everybody knows what it's, but yeah, and this is like the big, like literally he does this movie and then like he does a couple more movies and he's doing Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's not very far. He does Heavenly Creatures and then he does The Frighteners. And right after The Frighteners is wrapped, he's doing pre-production for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But this movie fucking rules.
Yeah.
It's like it is the craziest, goriest, bloodiest movie I've ever fucking seen.
I have never seen so much fake blood used in one scene. It's so 20-minute segment where he's mowing zombies down with a lawnmower that he's got strapped to his torso, and he's just in this house where he's being attacked by a horde of zombies.
I mean, there are some of my favorite things they've ever done in zombie movies. There's a zombaby.
Yep.
There's a baby zombie.
Yep.
There's the reanimated organs that form a person.
Yep.
That's wild.
This movie is fucking nuts.
And
bro.
the priest is one of my favorite characters.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Literally, he's a kung fu priest.
He's a kung fu priest.
He kung fu fights a fucking zombie.
Doesn't he have a pair of crucifixes as a nunchuck?
Yeah, he sure does.
I'm gonna have to watch
that movie's
this movie
fucking
now.
rules.
Good luck finding it. I had a copy
hard.
of it. I had a physical copy of it, and I can't find it. And I was fucking upset when I went through so many boxes looking for it because I was like, oh my god, I did not get rid of this fucking movie. Did I?
It has one of my favorite DVD covers, which is the face
is being stretched
over the skull.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
It's fucking that movie fucking rips, but it's super New Zealand.
It is very because he's filmed because like Peter Jackson does with every fucking thing, he filmed it in New Zealand. He did the same thing. He filmed The Frighteners in New Zealand too.
Oh yeah,
so,
everything gets because like most of his movies, a lot of his movies before The Frighteners took place in New Zealand.
Yep.
So like this takes place in New Zealand. Meet the Feebles takes place in New Zealand. Heavenly Creatures takes place in New Zealand. You know, like so that's just where he films everything because he gets a lot of tax cuts.
Sorry. Dead Alive came out in 92, so because it was still on my list.
Oh, okay.
We just jumped ahead.
For some reason, that movie just feels so 80s to me.
It is very 80s.
Yeah.
Well, it's because everything in New Zealand is a
little behind.
A little behind.
That's true.
They're backwater. I'm sorry, New Zealand. If anybody's listening in New Zealand, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it,
He's an
baby. I
asshole.
love you. So in 1990, Tom Savini gets tapped to remake Night of the Living Dead. like Romero asked him. Like they knew they were going to do it. They were doing it mostly.
He didn't want to do it.
Tom Savini was like, "This sounds like a fucking nightmare." And when it was over, he said that was the worst experience of my life because he was fine as long as Romero was there to protect him from the producers. But when Romero was not on set, he said the producers made his life a living hell because he had a vision and they kept trying to make him change it. And he's like, "I don't want to do that." And so whenever Romero would come back, he'd be like, "Thank God you're here. Can you get these fucking assholes off me?"
Get them away from me.
Yeah. Talked about Dead Alive. 80 gallons of fake blood was used in the final scene alone. Just gallons and gallons of blood. Like when they're done with the whole scene, like it just looks like a swimming pool full of blood. Just in this like palatial house with like this grand staircase and stuff. It's fucking crazy. I'm putting this one on the list of zombie movies that are culturally significant. Death Becomes Her.
Yes, I fucking love that.
This movie is so
rules
good.
So hard.
Yeah, and it's different. It's different because
directed by Zemeckis, and it has some of the best makeup effects I've ever seen. But Meryl Streep hated doing this movie because of all the makeup.
Yeah, it was rough. We have 1993. Disney makes a horror movie. My Boyfriend's Back.
Oh, Jesus.
There was Disney and Touchstone's attempt to make a family-friendly zombie movie who returns just to take his girlfriend to the prom.
That sounds terrible.
It's cute. It's not. It's just cute, but it's not good. Yeah.
I don't know why Disney didn't just stick with like Frank and Weenie and Jack Skellington and that would have been
1993. This one, okay. So listen, I know it's not good, but I'm gonna defend this movie. I will watch it at any time. I skipped Return of the Living Dead 2 just to specifically talk about Brian Usna?
Yeah, Brian Usna.
Brian Usna.
He was involved in Reanimator.
Yep. He directs Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Okay. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I saw this movie at a very young age. I was like 15 years old. Very formative time in my life. And I had a revelation in the last year or something like that because I watched this movie. And the girl in there is very alt. She's very goth kind of thing. By the time,
I know who you're talking about now.
it just dawned on me within the last year. It's like, oh, this is why I have the taste in women that I have.
Yep, because that was the girl that was on your screensaver because I asked you who she was.
Yep, that's the one.
That checks
and
out.
I was like,
That checks
oh,
out.
I get it. It's not. Look, I'm not saying it's a good movie. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie.
It's absolute trash.
I've
never seen it.
It's got good practical effects though. It does have very good practical effects. That's why I'm putting it on there. It's not really a particularly good entry into the Return of the Living Dead. It went straight to video.
That tells you a lot.
So it was the first of the Return of the Living Dead movies to go straight to video. And then after that, all of them just ended up. But then they were making these lower budget because they made this movie on a low budget. Like you can tell, like the majority of the money is spent doing the practical effects. They didn't because Mindy Clark was pretty much unknown, and then nobody else, and maybe except for his dad, was probably completely unknown. 1996, Resident Evil comes out on PlayStation. This is when zombies horror survival video games come out. This is when zombie movies started getting the shot in the arm they needed to get back. Because this movie comes out, or this video game comes out, everybody starts playing it, and they just like they can become ravenous. They want to consume more zombie. Just everything. Like you start getting books. Like what was the book series we were talking about earlier?
Dead City.
Dead
It
City.
is the Dead City series. I cannot remember who wrote them. It is the only series of books I have read in my adult life since I've graduated college.
You also have all the Max Brooks movie.
That's true.
Like we were talking about the zombie.
There's so much Survival Guide. Yep.
Yeah, and then you also have World War Z that he also wrote.
That is true.
Mel Brooks' son.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so weird to me. Like every time I hear that, it's still.
I remember I've read the first book because that's how we were talking about it, and I was like, oh my God, I remember reading this book about a zombie apocalypse that breaks out after a hurricane hits Houston, and a guy's trying to get to somewhere, and he's like, that's the book I'm talking about. I was like, oh shit.
It's not James Ponte. I'll find it real quick.
Okay.
I got to figure out who that guy was.
So yeah, I mean, the Resident Evil video game is so big and so like groundbreaking and so important that it was only 6 years between the release of the video game and the first Resident Evil movie. Yeah. We talked about it. Resident Evil movie. It's got a lot of problems.
It's not good. I will say though, Colin Salmon, right?
Oh yeah.
He gets killed the same way in two different movies.
He does, yeah.
Because he gets killed that way in Alien versus Predator.
Yep. He gets
he gets dissected twice.
Yeah. For the first Resident Evil movie is the birth of the big budget zombie movie in America. Japan had been toying around with them for a couple years. This was the first one that.
Oh yeah, you don't get a lot of the big budget movies without this one. This one because it did well.
It did super well, yeah. And it was a lot of the reason why it did well is because the video game faithfuls like pushed it.
I don't think you get Dawn of the Dead remake without this.
No. And then that same year, we get this one. So they're not the traditional zombies, but it's just also directed. I know you know who this guy is, Danny Boyle.
Yeah, I love Danny Boyle.
Danny Boyle is awesome. He directs 28 Days Later, which we are finally getting the third installment 28 years later.
He's like Academy Award nominated. He directed Slumdog Millionaire. He directed 127 Hours.
Yep.
I mean, he's a big deal.
Yep. He directs this. It's an odd choice to direct a movie, but it was it was due in part to the failures of a couple of previous movies that he directed and returned to the United Kingdom to take a few lower budget movies to revitalize his career. Ironically, 28 Days Later remains his most successful movie to date. Because it hit the theaters and people were like, the rage virus was like, this is also a time you see it a little bit in a Resident Evil, and then you see it again in 28 Days Later, and then in the next one we're going to talk about. It's the virus, the people getting sick. See again, the horror has shifted. The fear has shifted. So now it's no longer like fear of immigrants or fear of like the religion. Now it's, I'm going to get sick.
Well, and I think too that you get the shift in Resident Evil where they're slow, they're shambling.
Yep.
It's more survival based,
and
then you get to 28 Days Later,
and
they're booking it. They are running full speed at you.
It's the difference between, and I'll talk about this, and then let's go ahead and just say it right now. Dawn of the Dead in 2004. Okay, tonal shift from the original, so good. It's probably one of my favorite remakes of all time. The differences are it's a difference between if you go back to Night of the Living Dead versus the new Dawn of the Dead. One is creeping terror, one is creeping dread, the other one is abject terror, and that's what Dawn of the Dead does. Is it changes it from
100%.
dread.
I mean, we talked about it in the remakes, but there is literally the one of the scenes in that movie still gets me every fucking time. And it's at the very beginning with Sarah Pauli when she's trying to hold off her husband and she falls into the shower accidentally.
Yeah, that was, by the way, that we mentioned this in the remakes episode. When she tumbles back into the tub, she slipped.
Oh,
the actress slipped.
That makes that scene 1,000
but
times
it works,
more
and then you have
terrifying.
that scene where he's like trying to come through the shower curtain.
Yeah,
he's like,
and all you see is kind of like his jaws just kind of like gnashing at her. That's why this movie because we talked about this in the remakes episode. If you're going to remake something, you got to do something different. And then in 2004, we also get our parody movie. I fucking love this movie, Shaun of the Dead, the first movie to actually call them zombies in the movie.
If you were to ask me what my favorite zombie movie is,
this is probably
this is my favorite.
I don't know. I think I've got my top 10 list back here.
I mean, I can rattle off some ones that I like, but like Shaun of the Dead is tippy top for me.
Yeah,
because it has my thing with zombie movies is I'm gonna like it if you do something different. If you do something that I'm like, you know what, that's neat. And I like this movie because it's taking the piss out of zombies.
Yep.
But it's also a scary movie, but it's also like a movie that I'm like, it makes me feel things.
I also feel like some of the people in there.
Oh,
like,
dude, there are times that I feel like Sean all the time.
Like Sean is every member of the audience because we're all working dead end jobs and we fucking hate it.
We're not the greatest to our girlfriends, or we could be better. We're not like the worst person in the world, but it's like I could do better. You know, like, and I think you can feel like a lot of different people in this movie because you could maybe feel like Liz, where you're like,
I'm so exasperated.
I'm so exasperated with you, but also like,
I love you, but
goddamn, you're pissing me off.
Yeah.
You know, there are times when you have friends like Ed, where you're like, man, dude, really fuck off.
You need to stop doing the shit you're doing. Stop being you.
Grow the fuck up, dude. But like, I think that movie, the end of that movie, like, God, it's just one hit after the other, where it's like, fuck, dude, I was laughing, and now I'm like heartbroken. Like
when his mom dies.
when his mom dies,
Yeah.
it kills me, dude.
Yeah.
You know, when Pete shows back up and bites Ed, it's like, dude,
Why?
what?
Yeah.
And it's just left.
Is Sean gonna have anybody left?
It's just Sean and Liz, and
Yeah,
that's who it ends up being. But there are so many parts of that movie that fucking make me giggle, like when they go to his mom's house,
Yeah.
and he's trying to explain why him and Philip don't get
Yeah.
along.
Did I tell you that he touched me?
It's like, I lied about that. Shouldn't have said it.
Made that up. Should have said it.
He chased me around the garden with a bit of wood.
Oh, he told you that.
Motherfucker.
Sean. I'm sorry, mother. I mean, mom.
Yeah. I mean, and fucking Nick Frost kills me in that fucking movie. He's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm sorry, Sean. No, it's fine. No, I mean,
I'm sorry, Sean.
oh God, that's vile. I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing.
Yeah, like that's.
I used to always see that in trailers for movies when I'd watch them on DVD, and that would always see it, and I'd always get into it. Like, I'd always look forward to seeing that come up.
2006, James Gunn takes his shot at like a zombie-ish horror movie. Evan hates this movie because
I don't hate it. It's just fine. It's a perfectly fine movie.
Yeah, it's called Slither.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm very up and down with James Gunn. Like I'm up on some things that James Gunn did, but some things I'm just like, I'm kind of over.
It stars Nathan Fillion, so
That's why I don't like
and Elizabeth Banks. And Michael Rooker.
You want to throw throwbacks? Firefly. I bet more people have heard of Firefly with Nathan Fillion than Star Trek Voyager that listen to this podcast.
I don't know about that.
We need a poll.
Okay, if you've heard of
if you put a gun to my head, and which one would I rather watch?
You're going to say Voyager.
Then one season of Firefly as opposed to multiple seasons of Voyager, I'll probably pick Voyager.
Other stars has a bunch of people starring in it. The mayor of the town is probably the fucking most hilarious guy. He's just hilarious. I did put this one on, but I'm specifically talking about the double feature Grindhouse version of Planet Terror. Planet Terror is directed by Robert Rodriguez,
Which I prefer over Death Proof. I think it's a better.
It is better.
It's way
better.
movie.
I like them both, but Planet Terror is better.
The only reason
Planet Terror also has a much bigger, cooler cast.
I don't like the individual films. I think
they
don't
like,
work as well.
Yeah,
for me, because
if you watch them as the Grindhouse double feature, they work.
Yeah, that's what I went.
Death Proof is so goddamn boring. If you're watching the whole hour and a half, 2 hour version of Death Proof, fucking shoot me.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching the toned down hour 15-minute version of Death Proof, I'm there.
Well, because I'm into the characters because it's got some actresses, the actresses that are in that movie.
Oh yeah,
I love because it's got Zoe Bell and like the first thing she ever got to do as
herself,
where she's dressed up like the fucking bride from Kill Bill,
like she just stepped off the set.
Yeah, and then Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which I have a huge soft spot for her. I fucking love her.
Morbid fascination with her, really.
But she's a scream queen. That's what
she is.
And she loves that she's a scream queen, but it's got Rosario Dawson. I mean, that fucking movie's got a lot of good people, and it's just fucking boring.
Yeah, and then even the cast from the first part of it, the first four girls, they're good.
Oh yeah, they're good.
They're good.
The kills are good, like the wheel.
Oh, the scene, scene where they're doing the kill.
But like Planet Terror is a far superior film.
You got Navina Andrews, you got Bruce Willis, you got fucking Freddie Rodriguez, you got Rose McGowan, you've got Jeff Fahey, you've got Michael Biehn, you've got oh my god, the cast on the original.
Well, you got Marley Shelton, Josh Brolin, which that hospital scene is one of my favorite scenes that Robert Rodriguez has ever filmed. It's so good.
And the fucking scene where Tarantino's nuts melt off is hilarious.
Yeah.
Then 2007, we released 28 weeks later. It lives up to the surprise hit of the original. It's not directed by Danny Boyle. It's directed now by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo.
Brendan Gleeson was in the first one, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Yeah. It was Brendan Gleeson and now Academy Award winning Cillian Murphy. And I can't remember what her name is, but it's the same chick that played Tia Dalma in the fucking Pirates movies.
I wonder if...
Naomi Harris, that's what her name was. Then Romero, we skipped past Land of the Dead, and I skipped past it because it's not very good. I'm talking about Land of the Dead. It's fine.
We can also talk about another movie from 2007, which is Wreck. Wreck comes out in 2007.
Yep, coming up on 2007. Romero returns to the zombie genre in 2005 with Land of the Dead. It's okay. It's got a semi-decent cast. This is before we found out how shitty of a person Asia Argento is, so she's in that movie. It's got John Leguizamo in it. It's got Dennis Hopper in one of his final performances, which is really sad that this is one of his final performances because
I don't love that movie.
It's not good. It's not good, and that's why I didn't really talk about it.
Diary's not great either.
I like Diary because it is different. They're on the road. It's filmed in like a first person. It comes out in 2008. It's filmed in like a first person. It's like almost like a found footage version.
Right.
And it's them try a bunch of kids that were out in the woods filming a horror movie, ironically, trying to get home after like the zombie apocalypse happens, and then they're just trying to find like a safe place to go.
I think I've seen that.
And then we can talk about Wreck.
Dude.
Yeah, Wreck is amazing.
Yeah, it's because it's what, Spanish, I believe.
It's
that movie is so fucking good because
it's visceral.
They did something different. They did a found footage zombie film.
I think that was the first found footage movie I watched. It was either that or Cloverfield. Like they were right in
there.
But I remember watching that. And
if you haven't seen Wreck, and there is a remake of it called Quarantine. It's not as good. I think it's still fine. I think it's still okay.
If you're okay with foreign language films, just watch Wreck.
Yeah.
Wreck is a far superior film. It has better scares.
If you're against reading subtitles, just watch it dubbed. It's better. The problem is that you're going to run across a bunch of people in this movie that you have no idea who they are because they are foreign actors.
But I'm okay with that because it's a found footage film.
It's fine.
I'm good with it. But there are some great scares in that movie. Like
Wreck is fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Like that sweeping shot they do when that kid just goes, and the end sequence is fucking.
Have you
insane.
seen Wreck?
I have.
Yeah,
yes. I didn't watch it until recently in the last 2 years.
Dude, that end sequence with that abomination thing walking around is the fucking scariest shit.
Yeah.
That movie's fucking scary.
I remember watching it a long time ago, and I remember watching Cloverfield, and I was like, I don't like found footage movies. They're weird. I couldn't sit still during them.
Yeah.
It made my stomach turn. And then I watched them again later, and I was like, oh, this is really good.
Dude, Cloverfield rips, dude.
Yeah, no, Cloverfield's great. Blair Witch is great.
I'm a big defender of found footage films.
And then 2009, we got a big one. It's a big budget movie.
Yep.
Zombieland.
Yes, sir.
Got him.
And I like Zombieland because they do something different.
Character driven.
Fantastic.
Gore. Fantastic cast.
Well,
those four guys, it just immediately. Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, and
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg. Those four guys just in a car. Just having fucking hilarious.
It's a road trip zombie.
It's a road trip zombie.
It's one thing you never get to see. You never get to see something like that.
And the weirdest cameo of Bill Murray.
Oh, it's the best.
Bill so fucking Murray.
Bill. I know that's not your middle name, but
where he's dressed as a zombie, so they don't see him.
The scene that pops me the most is when they're playing Ghostbusters and Emma Stone has the glasses. She's like, "Oh, hurry, it's on the chandelier." This shit is so funny.
The scene that pops me the most is when he gets shot and he does his thing where he does and she starts laughing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's really sad, but he gets me.
Yeah,
but it is really sad.
I love that movie.
Yeah, they flip him over the balcony. Anybody want your Perel? Oh yeah, please.
I remember when I first heard about that movie that Woody Harrelson, this whole movie is going from start to finish in a land ravaged by zombies, looking for fucking Twinkies. I was all about it. That was just it. I was like, this is great.
I hate snowballs. I hate coconut. The texture, not the taste.
That movie was awesome, man.
I haven't cried that much since Titanic.
Zombieland. And listen, if you haven't watched Zombieland, what are you doing listening to our podcast right now? Stop the podcast and go watch Zombieland.
I knew I was going to love that movie from the beginning when they started playing the credits and For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica played.
Yeah. I remember I was watching it in the theater and Shane's like, oh, my nipples just got hard.
I thought the movie was going to be a lot more serious with that starting scene. And then it gets 10 minutes in. I'm like, man, this is a fucking comedy. This is great.
Movie. Also, shout out to Amber Heard getting fucking wrecked at the beginning.
She gets fucking.
Because she's girl from 312.
Yep.
Yeah. Blonde from through 12. Yeah. So fuck Amber Heard. All right. So now we're at the 2010s and beyond. I called this section A New Hope. Didn't start out great.
Didn't start out great.
Because in 2013 we had World War Z. Okay.
One of the worst adaptations of a book.
Listen, you can definitely tell in that movie that they ran out of money. Because the last portion of that movie, like the third act of that movie, where they're in the lab or something like that,
CDC lab,
the CDC lab. It's so bad. It's so bad. That is not the movie Brad Pitt wanted to make. He when he released the movie, he literally said, he's like, I had a better plan, or we had a better plan for this. The plan was going to cost too much money. This is what we made. Sorry. And Max Brooks is like, I get it. It's fine. Whatever. It's not a good movie. The CGI is suspect at best.
There's like one good scene in that movie. It's the airplane scene.
Yeah, it detracted so much from the source material that it's almost unwatchable.
The only redeeming quality I will give that movie is him realizing that like being diseased is what makes them not go after you, and then him playing those memories back in his head, and you see that light click on. That is the only redeeming quality of that movie in my eyes.
This is an obscure one, and I don't think anybody at this table has watched this one, so I think I'm alone. But in 2013, there was a movie that, this is also, again, we're back to the whole, like, people being afraid of, like, the zombie virus and being sick and getting sick and stuff like that. 2013, Eric England releases a movie called Contracted. Okay.
We talked about this movie.
We did.
We have talked about this movie because I've seen this movie.
Yeah. It's a disturbing descent from a living woman into an undead after she has a night of rough sex and contracts the zombie disease like an STD. Mm-hmm. So she's not a zombie throughout most of it. She's just kind of decaying and shit like that. And by the end of the movie, she turns into this zombie. And yeah,
it's like they took the 5-minute time it takes someone to turn into a zombie after they're bitten and made a
spread
whole
it out.
movie.
Yeah, spread it out.
Well, I have a movie that I want to talk about from literally this year.
Okay, we're good from this year, from
2013. Yeah.
Oh, from 2013. Go.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna sit here and defend Warm Bodies.
See, go ahead.
Oh my God, I loved that movie. I hope we won't bring
Thank
it up.
God,
because
I hate that.
It is a romance movie, and
I
hate romance movies, but I loved that fucking movie.
Do you know why I like it? Because they did something fucking different.
And they did.
I fucking hate this movie. I can't stand this movie.
I fucking love Warm Bodies.
I
like the thought that, like, oh man, they're not all the way gone. You know what I mean? I like that. I thought that was neat.
Who was it? Who played his friend? What was his?
It was what's his name from Hot Tub Time Machine?
Yeah, I know, but what's his name?
Rob Corddry.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
I love Rob Corddry and just about everything else I've seen him in. I don't like this movie.
Oh, I love Warm Bodies.
I used to watch that movie all the time because I was like, man, this is so good. It's
maybe
so weirdly...
I've only seen it once, and it was probably about 2014, like when it hit a movie channel. So maybe I'll go back and watch it.
When they start realizing that they're like in love with each other, it hits me so hard, dude.
But who's the girl that played that?
I can't remember. Because it was Nicholas Hoult.
It was Nicholas Hoult played, and then the girl was this. It was the same girl that was the lead in Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Teresa Palmer.
Yeah.
And then John Malkovich was in it as well.
Yeah,
the general.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I love the end of that movie. It fucking rules.
Yeah. That movie was a lot better than I think people give it credit for.
I agree. I just recently watched it.
I will rewatch it and see. Like I said, I only watched it once. I didn't like it, and so I didn't pick it up again. But it's had some time to breathe. Maybe I'll go back and rewatch it and see if I like it better now.
It's way better.
I think what it does with the zombie characters is pretty ingenious because it makes you really care about these people. Like, I love the fact that they talk in these one word things and stuff like that. And like, Rob Corddry, like his friend is realizing like, oh shit, he fell in love with a person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just think it's awesome. You see this like community of zombies where they're not really trying. They're like understanding that like, oh man, we don't have to kill people. We can do other things. And they've come together where they're trying to stop doing. I think it's really cool. It's a good script where they took an idea and they were like, yeah, we're going to do something different. And I appreciated it.
Yeah. All right. This is another big one. I know Evan's on board with this one. 2016. Train to Busan.
Yeah, that's
Love this.
Oh
movie.
my God, this movie.
That movie is
So horror movies don't scare me anymore, but this movie made me feel anxiety.
Yes,
it
that
made
was-
me feel intense.
I
It was
was-
so fucking.
that's a great way to put it. I have no idea how to like adrenaline. Like I had adrenaline. Like I'm like, dude, this dude is like zombie is 2 inches from his face, snarling at him. He's got a book in its mouth. Like
Yep.
fighting for this man's life.
Yeah.
but again, they
did something different.
did something different, and also
Terrifyingly good.
they made characters that I fucking care about.
Yeah.
Like the main character, I want him and his daughter to get to where they need to go.
The one
Yeah.
the one that I felt the most for was the father with the pregnant wife.
Yes, it was what's his name from? He was in Eternals.
He was in Eternals.
Yeah, he played
I can't remember what his
Gilgamesh.
name is.
He apparently he's a big action
He's big
star
in
in Korea.
yes,
Yeah,
he
he's
is.
big.
Well,
over
he's.
there.
I mean, look at it. He's fucking. The dude is fucking jacked.
But
bro.
like, dude, his sacrifice
is so heartbreaking.
it
Oh my
hurts.
God.
But like the baseball kid, I
baseball
love
kid.
the baseball kid. His girlfriend, love her. Of course, there's the villain in the movie
Yep.
that you want. Oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
that guy sucks.
When you find out spoiler alert, when you find out he's a zombie at the end, you're like, thank God, because I thought he was going to get away.
end of that movie, I cry every single time.
When she starts singing,
It's when he's
or when he does the sacrifice off the back of the
when
thing.
he's sitting there talking to her before, because you know what's gonna happen, and the pregnant wife is like, hey, you need to make sure
you need to make sure she gets to her mom.
she gets to her mom, but he's telling her all the stuff that he's wanted to tell her for so long, and that end scene when he hasn't fully turned yet, and he's dude, I'm getting goosebumps just
Yeah,
thinking
it's-
about that. God, that movie's so fucking.
If you have not watched Train to Busan, cannot recommend this movie enough.
Top probably 3-5 of mine.
Yeah.
It's so like if I was ranking it as zombie movies, it might be. It's like probably like.
Well, I'm gonna get to my top 5 zombie movies here in just a minute.
I mean,
So.
it's up there. It's probably like 2 for me.
And then the last one that I have, and you want to talk about in the other ones, the last one I have on here is it's a French movie called The Night Eats the World. It was filmed in France, but it's got all American actors, and
Yes.
they all speak
Yep.
American. It's fine. It's got some 28 days later vibes to it, but I think it drags too much.
It's very slow.
Yeah. All right. Any other zombie movies you want to talk about before I get into my top 5?
I can't think of any movies, but like
Video games?
Netflix has had some really good like Asian zombie series come on. All of Us Are Dead was a really good
Is it
one.
Korean?
It's Korean or Japanese. I can't remember.
Okay.
But it's Asian cultured. All of Us Are Dead. Happiness is another good one. I just finished that.
Dude, Happiness rules.
I just finished that the other day. It's fantastic.
that
It's
movie
very
is
weird.
insane.
It's a very weird take on zombies and how they become zombies, but it's very good.
that movie is the craziest shit I've ever. That movie takes everything up to 11.
Okay.
It's
and
wild.
it's insane. Is that from like what? Is that from China? Is that from like Korea?
I think it's
Korean or Japanese?
Korean,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
I know a lot of there's a lot of cool stuff coming out of Korea right now.
Yeah,
like Train to
there's-
Busan is Korean. Like
there's
there's a
There's a lot of
very good
really
ones.
good stuff coming out of Korea. Out of a lot of interesting new stuff that's coming out of Japan. Argentina is real.
Yeah, Argentina's
When
getting
Evil
into the-
Lurks came out of Argentina,
Yeah.
and that was my favorite horror film of last year,
Yeah.
bar none.
um,
I probably like the most current thing that I've been super interested in when it comes to zombies is The Last of Us. I think
I
think
can't,
that series is because I love the games for
Yeah.
obvious reasons. They're just
can't praise Last of Us more. And then I can't praise it enough.
April.
Yeah,
April
I'm
can't
just
come
waiting.
soon enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's such a huge market now. It's like the video games. Like I play a lot of video games. Both of you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Like you remade the Resident Evils in the last few years. Like
They
Resident
re-released,
2, 3, 4.
yeah.
But the zombie game craze. I mean, you had like
It's
Left 4 Dead.
huge.
You had Dead Before Daylight or whatever, or
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight. You had like all these different things. And of course, COD. They did like the
Nazi zombies.
Yeah,
the zombies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you've had so many huge games and like people that don't play video games, like watch these, like, you can go on YouTube and watch people play them, but some of these have such good like scares and it builds such a creepy environment.
I think they also tell really good human stories.
They do. Yeah.
Like Last of Us. Last of Us tells a good human story
That
about
is-
characters.
Yeah.
The zombie video game industry has really like amped up their because they realize that it's not just about killing zombies. It's all about like That's another thing that people miss in zombie movies is in zombie media in general is that it's not just about the zombies. It's about human connection.
Yeah.
But that's also one of my beefs about it is not the human connection, but I also think that they don't do enough with the characters when they have all this space to do more with characters.
Yeah.
And that's where I get upset. Where I'm like, you have all of this space to do something interesting with your characters, and you choose not to. You choose to just be about the zombies. Well, that's not what makes it interesting. What makes it interesting is how are
the humans interacting with the other humans?
Why do I care about these people? Like you have to make me care about these people, whether or not they die or not.
Yeah.
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 So my question that I have proposed to both of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you surviving a zombie apocalypse?
I have a plan.
Okay, so here's the one. Dawn of the Dead 2004. Are you surviving that zombie apocalypse?
That's a tough one.
That's
a real
I mean,
tough
yeah, the Zack Snyder Fast Zombies. I get winded going up the stairs.
Like if I'm in their situation, like at the mall, I think I can survive for a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I have no inclination that says that I'm going to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. I have a zombie apocalypse survival plan. It's had to change because I used to have a much better plan, but that was before they remodeled Dylan's store. Because here's the thing. So you get to take a few elements out of a movie. We'll go back to 28 Days Later, where they're in that apartment building, right?
Right.
What did they do to lock themselves up there? They threw a bunch of shopping carts down the stairs. Zombies can't climb that shit.
Yeah, I mean,
so that was my initial plan, was to go to that Dylan store, take all the shopping carts, just pile them up. They don't have to be like in a row. You just pile them up there, get them all locked together and stuff like that. Zombies can't get through that. But then they remodeled the store and put a bunch of like plate glass in the front of it, and I'm just like, fuck, I got to come up with something else.
Yep.
My zombie apocalypse plan now is to bug out, find a nice, quiet, like forested area, and just try to live off the land as best as I can.
I feel like everybody would survive much better in your slow shambler.
Oh fuck yeah,
zombies! Like I feel like that's fine.
Well, in Night of the Living Dead, what does Barbara do to get away? She walks past them. She says that in the movie. She's like, they're so slow, we could walk right by them.
You put me in Dawn of the Dead, I'm out, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even trying.
Now, Last of Us zombies.
No, I'm fucked.
Well, no, that's different because if you're dealing with runners, yeah, you're fucked. But if you're dealing with the clickers, you have to be very, very quiet.
You got a chance
because they can't see.
Yeah,
they can only hear.
I'm not.
Distract them just like you do in the game. You throw bottles.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how stealthy I can be. Like
now, the runners will get you.
Yeah.
Like
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. They're coming.
GG's. 400 days since last online.
But I think with that's different. But also, you have to remember in The Last of Us, in that world, they also have gated communities. Now it's like Nazi-ish, but you're going to survive the fucking zombies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, so
you may not survive inside the complex.
Yeah, you just live in the QZs and you'll be fine.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I yearn for the zombie apocalypse, but I also fear it because I'm just like I
do not yearn for it anymore.
I ain't making out of that shit.
Ever since I had kids, I do not yearn for it anymore.
That's fair.
That's a difference.
That's a whole new mindset.
You have a completely
different. If it was just me, I wouldn't.
Because you just have to worry about you. But now you have to worry. Now you're like fucking Rick
and you
Grimes.
can here's another problem with the zombies from The Last of Us. Can you imagine trying to keep Drax quiet?
Oh no, Drax is dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be real. I think I can run faster than either you or Shane, so I think I'm good for a while.
You smoked a lot longer than I did.
Oh, I can run faster than you all day.
All right, we're about to take a break and have a foot race outside.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
nope.
I'm just saying when the shit goes down.
Let's not get crazy here.
If the shit go down, I think I can run faster than you.
Okay.
I got $10 and somebody pulling a hammy in the first 5 steps.
I'm gonna get down in like the runner's position, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I got a cramp."
So neither one are surviving the.
Probably not. Not the 2004 Dawn of the. All right, so we're gonna go. This is now. You guys can feel free to do your top 5. This is my top 5 zombie movies of all time.
Yeah, pretty whack.
Yeah. Number 5, I've got Dawn of the Dead 2004. Zack Snyder remake. Just awesome.
Solid movie.
Yeah, solid movie. Number 4 is 2004's Shaun of the Dead. Fucking love that movie. We already talked about it. We talked about how awesome it is. Number 3 is my newest addition to the movie to this is Train to Busan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it again,
It's hard to beat.
Number 2 is Return of the Living Dead. This is also I forgot to mention this, but this is also the first instance of the brain eating zombies. Like this is the first time that this is where we get the brains or whatever.
Right.
So it is a groundbreaking kind of, different take on the zombies because they're also kind of smart because send more paramedics. So, and then number 1 is of course my all-time favorite zombie movie is the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead starring Tony Todd and Patricia Tallman. I can watch that movie just over and over and over again.
I had never watched that until we watched it that one day.
Oh yeah. You
was-
did say you stayed and watched it after we watched our main event. I was like, oh, by the way, my friend put Night of the Living Dead. He's like, fuck it, it's only an hour and 20 minutes. It's only an hour and a half. I'll stay and watch it.
Yeah. Okay, I think I could do mine. So like number 5 is Wreck.
Okay,
I
completely respect that.
fucking love Wreck so much.
Completely respect that.
Number 4 is going to be 2004's Dawn of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I love Dawn of the Dead. I love all the characters in Dawn of the Dead.
Well, not Steve.
Yeah,
Steve sucks.
Steve sucks. But like Michael Kelly is he's my favorite character in
that.
that.
The guy plays CJ.
Yep.
Yeah, he's my favorite character in that entire movie. Number 3, and I'm just basing this on zombie movies. I know it's one of my favorite movies, but I'm going to go ahead and go with Reanimator.
Yeah.
Because I love Reanimator so much. Number 2, I'm going to go with Train to Busan. Because Train to Busan has like slowly become like one of my favorite horror movies like ever.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting take on a zombie movie.
It is. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then number 1 is You Got Red on You. Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead. I can literally if I see that movie on, I'm watching it every single time.
Man, I don't know if I have like a top 5. If I do, they're not in any particular order, but I'd have to say, I mean, Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake, Night of the Living Dead. Like I said, that was probably one of the first horror movies I remember watching.
The OG.
Yeah, the OG. Train to Busan's on there. But
I'm so glad that Train to Busan is getting like the love.
So much love.
Yes, it deserves every bit of it.
Yeah.
I love Zombieland. I love Shaun of the Dead. I have to look at them in a different light because sometimes I want to watch a zombie movie that's like gritty and like
they're so totally different because Shaun of the Dead is almost parodying a zombie movie, whereas Zombieland is just humor in this situation.
Yeah, but I do think there's a lot of heart in Shaun of the Dead. There's a lot.
There
of,
is,
and I think there is some in Zombieland, but I don't think there is as much.
Yeah,
but
I will shout out the fact that Zombieland does reference Wichita because that's where we all live.
But no, I think they have to go on the list. I don't know how I would stack them in that list.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Return of the Living Dead, and then the movie with Patricia Tallman has to go on there. I said, I never watched that until you were like, hey, you want to watch this? I'm like, I'll give it a shot.
Fuck yeah.
But that one was, I love the way that they rewrote it and made it.
I like the way they portray Barbara better in this one.
She was more badass.
She starts out as that kind of like catatonic mess because she doesn't, but then she quickly realizes, oh, if I don't snap out of it, I'm going to fucking die. And so she becomes I called Kendall the adult in the room and he's like, oh man, that's I've never been called that before. But she becomes the adult in the room because she finally gets that moment where she was like, anything that I lost a long time ago and I don't plan on losing anything else. You can stop telling me about losing it when you stop screaming at each other like a bunch of 2-year-olds.
I mean, like
she fucking just lays down the law and I was like, oh, my nipples just got hard. Well, that was a deep cuts on the history of zombie movies. What do you think?
Boring.
Shut up.
If there are any other good zombie movies that we missed that are like monumental
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I was
email the pod
Yeah,
because
it's khhorrorpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Please email us.
I was just
I would
bringing
love
up
to check them out.
like maybe some fringe ones that we could, they're kind of a like a fringe case.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to bring up Warm Bodies because I figured you wouldn't. Yeah. And then
that one goes in the same
and-
vein with Zombieland.
and then when I brought it up and I saw his eyes light up, I'm like, oh, good.
Well, at least there's one person at the table that's going to appreciate this. See, it was a good idea for me to bring him in.
Yeah, good. Maybe next time we can watch that. We can have like a date night and hold
I'm
hands
down.
and stuff.
I'm down. You can sit in the middle.
Have the popcorn bucket, but cut a hole in it. Oh, it's so buttery and salty.
3, 2, 1. That's my cock. It's my finger. Did you just give me a prostate to make a dick joke? Yeah.
But yeah, I learned a lot. I don't know if it'll stick, but I did learn a lot now.
Yeah, no,
You're going to go to bed, and then tomorrow morning, like, what did I do last night?
What
was
happened
that?
yesterday?
Yeah, so, anyways, you can have my notes if you want. That way you can keep them. That way you can say you learned a bunch of stuff. So
no, I liked the history of it because that was cool. I didn't know a lot of the.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to bring into that, but once we started talking about
The movies?
at least the more current movies, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current ones I've probably seen a good majority of those. Like I've seen.
I've
a lot
seen
of the
some of the
series and-
older ones. Like I've seen Revolt of the Zombies. It's
70s is where I start.
Yeah,
like getting it, like obviously late 60s, Night of the Living Dead, but also getting into like the Italian zombie. Which
you
is the
can
ones
you can say that Night of the Living Dead is a 70s movie because it
basically
it basically is a 68. It's fine. Yeah, I mean the majority of those zombie movies that I've seen are all like the 70s, 80s, and 90s zombie movies. I've seen. God, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many times I've seen Return of the Living Dead. I can.
Oh yeah, I've seen it a lot. Like I was kind of surprised with myself. I was like, wow, I don't have it in my top 5. I really like that movie, but I just like these other movies
it's
more.
so good. Yeah. Again, it's another very character driven movie. Like
that's why I like it.
All the punks have a great character. Even fucking Suicide. It's like, do you think this is a fucking game?
Is that the one that died like short? Like
yeah, he had leukemia. He died
Yeah, that's what I thought,
probably. I think he died in like 1990 or something. Yeah, that was the guy with the chains coming out of his face.
Yeah.
And Trash is trying to like get on his jock, and he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like.
People should go out there, like speaking of Return of the Living Dead and Miguel Nunez, should go out there and check out on Shudder. There's a very really cool documentary called Film Noir, and it follows black actors in horror, and they really center it around Miguel Nunez, Ken Foray, and Tony Todd.
Yeah.
Like because they're the big three,
the triple threat.
Because I mean, look at Miguel Nunez in Return of the Living Dead. He survives like most of that movie.
Yeah, the only reason why he dies is because the fucking they nuke the city.
Yeah.
They nuke Louisville.
I mean, you look at Ken Foray. Ken Foray played major characters. Like he was a major character in Dawn of the Dead.
Yep.
He was a major character in From Beyond.
Yep.
In his fucking amazing
those effects.
the red boxer briefs.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
He just comes out in those fucking in his tidy whities. He's got the red.
Yeah.
And he's fucking slapping Barbara Crampton around while she's dancing sexily. That movie rips, dude. You need to watch From Beyond.
Yeah, it's so good. So the Jeffrey Combs H.P. Lovecraft movie.
Yeah,
it's
fucking awesome.
You can find me at Gallus Dracon on all the socials. That's Blue Sky, Twitter,
Other shit.
Yeah. TikTok. You can also find the podcast on TikTok at Kendall Hates Horror Podcast. You can email us at khhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. Send us whatever you want. You can just email us and say hi.
Oh, you can find me at SmarkyMFer on Twitter and Blue Sky, and Crit Happens 13 on Instagram.
Yep.
Oh, and also follow the podcast on Twitter at KHHPod and Kendall Hates Horror on Instagram.
Yep.
You cannot find me anywhere.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Hey man,
God damn it, there's always
nobody
one.
has
You guys-
socials anywhere.
you guys, if people want to hear from me
Yeah.
or want me back,
Yeah.
they'll let you guys know.
That's like
You're on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't post anything. I just watch your guys' videos.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't get on TikTok at all.
Yeah. Any last words?
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's about all I got.
Casey?
I'm the best commander player out of our friend group.
Fuck.
Point blank. Period.
No, there-
that is just you had to have a good week because you've been having some shit weeks lately.
Yeah.
Like holy
We don't
shit.
talk about those, all right?
Yeah.
Today.
I haven't won a game in like 3 weeks. It's been real bad.
Yeah. My final words is play more Magic. Play more Magic.
It's a way to make him lose friends.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, and join us again next week.
Peace.